Let's go. Hi, I'm Mandy. I'm a costume cutter, fashion practitioner and PhD candidate at RMIT, and I'm going to take you through my practice and you'll see how clothing resonates through all facets of my work, from costume to fashion and the current research that I'm doing. This dress was made for the film Australia. It's a reproduction of a dress held in a private collection used primarily for costume research. The textile is archival and the interior construction details were replicated, which is important in telling the story of a character. It helps locate the time and place, and also it takes into consideration the size of cinema screens. These twin dances are another example of using source material to develop costume design. The dances are from The Great Gatsby and they're based off research of the Dolly sisters who performed with the Ziegfeld Follies and throughout France during the 1920s and 30s. Oh, this is good. Good time. So this is a dress that I worked on for Givenchy Couture in 2016. It's designed by Riccardo Tisci, but it's actually a copy of an Ossie Clark dress from the 1970s, and the beading was also selected from the Lesage archive in Paris. So another example of just kind of reproductive practice, I guess. Mid-career, I undertook a Masters of Fashion at RMIT, and I decided to do the Masters based on fashion collaborations that I've been involved in with film and with some research I'd undertaken at the V&A archive as part of a Churchill Fellowship. So this is my Masters collection. Thank you. And it actually really set me up with a methodology which places a lens on methods from costume and situates them in fashion design practice. So this is the source material for that Masters collection, which is the Dior bar suit from 1947, and a passage from Christian Dior's autobiography which talks about methods that he had witnessed with people copying his designs. So this is a project that explored Madeleine Vionet's work. There's a book of Vionet's patterns by Betty Kirk, so I used that as the starting point for this project, as well as Vionet's method of photographing garments using a three-way mirror, which was a strategy to protect her work from copyists during that period of the interwar. These are the outcomes of that project, and everything except for the bodysuit is cut on the bias and uses textiles and colours as close to first-hand accounts that I'd read from the period. For this next project, I found this homemade 1930s satin-back creped dress in an archive, and it really reminded me of Chanel from the choice of materials, the pearl colour and cuffs, and the central pleats of the skirt. So I began to research Chanel during that period, the silhouette construction details and the textiles. So directly after that project, we went into lockdown in Melbourne, and it was a really reflective time for me, and I realised I wasn't entirely interested in just producing commercially available garments just to sustain myself creatively. So I enrolled in the PhD at RMIT. So my PhD really takes all of this background work and it questions the key differences between how garments were made and consumed historically, in contrast to contemporary fashion, and how these methods might be used in commercial and expanded contemporary fashion design practice. This is a good example. It's an exhibition from the Met that looks at Miuccia Prada and Schiaparelli's work. This is another example from a museum practitioner referencing historical garments in a contemporary museum setting. It's from the curator Olivia Sayard, who worked with a couturier from Madame Gray's atelier to recreate drapes and the internal construction, but uses a $5 t-shirt to do so. This performance is also by him with Tilda Swinton, and it's called Eternity Dress, and it takes the audience through a series of traditional techniques to make a dress in contrast to contemporary fashion production, and it's a provocation to kind of slow down the process. So the audience gets to see the whole process of fitting and making. This is another one by the same person. It's called Impossible Wardrobe, and in this performance, Tilda presents the audience with historical costumes from the Musée Galliera, including Victorian gowns, pieces by Fortuny and Poiret. And it's about clothes that will never be worn again, but it also is a comment on contemporary fashion shows. So this is some of the work that I'm doing now. It's just some testing, and it's going back into historical collections and looking at kind of their artisanal production. So their material value as well as labour, and their ability, it's about costumes for film and being able to kind of reproduce them, and the ability for like audiences to wear them, I guess. So these are some of the garments. They're from my work at the V&A. They're just tests at the moment, but I'm working with the National Trust with some of their garments in that project. So apart from physical garments, I'm also going to be testing the communication of them, and in film and theatre we conduct dress parades and screen tests for technical reasons and approval by directors and producers. There are similarities here to the way couture is photographed kind of historically, with their kind of nameplates and numbers. But I've also been testing ideas around reproducing images and moving images, and this reference is from Chanel's spiral staircase at Rue Cambon, where her collections were presented, and it kind of really resonates with me as it kind of reminds me of the frames of a film. So that's kind of just bringing my film practice in. And I'm also really interested in the earliest films in contrast to today. So this film that you see at the top is from 1905. The films at the bottom is from 2011, but interestingly, they use exactly the same stock kind of frame animation or jump cut editing techniques. So yeah, that's my practice at the moment. Thanks.